Humans. Every single wizard you love is human. Harry, Dumbledore, Snape, even Voldemort on his best days, all one species. Which makes it genuinely impressive that this species managed to build the most toxic hierarchy in the entire wizarding world, while lecturing everyone else about who counts as a being. The basics are simple. Wizards and witches are humans born with magic. Muggles are humans born without it. Same species, same biology. They just have to refill the teacup by hand like animals. Squibs got the weirdest deal of all, born into magical families raised around wands and owls and unable to produce a single spark. Argus Filch spends his days mopping a castle where every mess could be cleaned with one flick of a wand he doesn't own. That man was born angry and Hogwarts made it worse. Then wizards invented blood status. Pureblood families like the Malfoys treat their family tree like a trophy cabinet, and conveniently ignore that the tree has been marrying its own branches for a while now. Half-bloods like Harry make up most of the population, and Muggleborns like Hermione keep topping every class while being told they don't belong. None of it has any basis in actual magic. Hermione's parents are dentists, and she's the best witch of her generation. Here's the embarrassing part. Voldemort, the man who turned blood purity into a war, was a half-blood himself. His dad was a muggle who bolted the second he found out magic exists. The Death Eaters could check the records any time, and they bowed anyway. So maybe humans should finish grading their own species before handing out report cards to everyone else's. Goblins. Goblins run the entire wizarding economy, and wizards thank them for it with roughly 4 centuries of armed rebellions. They're short, dome-headed, sharp-fingered, and easily the shrewdest species in Britain. Every galleon in the country sits in Gringotts, a bank so secure that breaking into it made Harry a legend twice over. And it's staffed entirely by a race the ministry still monitors through a special liaison office, just in case the people holding all the money get ideas. Goblins are brilliant metal workers, and their craftsmanship comes with a worldview wizards refuse to accept. To a goblin, an object belongs to its maker forever. Buying it means renting it for life, and passing it down to the kids is basically theft with extra steps. That's why Griphook wanted the sword of Gryffindor back. Goblin made, goblin owned. End of discussion. Wizards call this attitude greedy. Goblins call wizard inheritance law-organized robbery. Both sides have been calling each other names since Professor Bin started teaching, and possibly since before he died. The rebellions are the part every Hogwarts student sleeps through, which is a shame because the bankers took up arms against the government is objectively the most interesting thing on the history of magic syllabus. Fun fact, goblins have their own language, gobbledygook, and very few wizards ever bothered learning it. The species guarding everyone's life savings speaks a language wizards can't understand. Sleep well, Britain. Ghosts. Ghosts got their own legal category because they were offended by all the other ones. Wizards first tried filing them as beings, and the ghosts stormed out, pointing out that they are quite obviously has-beens, thank you, and that the living spend far too much time on living issues. The ministry caved and created a third classification just for them, spirits. It stands as history's only civil rights victory won entirely through passive aggression. Here's the theory. When a wizard dies, they get one choice: move on or stay behind as an imprint of themselves. Only wizards can become ghosts, and as nearly headless Nick admitted to Harry in one of the series' saddest conversations, those who stay are usually the ones who fear death too much to go. Nick chose fear. Now he floats through eternity being denied entry to the headless hunt, because 45 hacks with a blunt axe left his head attached by half an inch of skin. Rejected from a club for being insufficiently decapitated. Eternity is long. Hogwarts is basically a retirement home for them. Moaning Myrtle haunts the plumbing of the bathroom she died in. The Grey Lady guards Ravenclaw's secrets. And Professor Binns died in the staff room, got up, and went to teach class without noticing. Nobody had the heart to tell him. Peeves, for the record, is a poltergeist. Chaos itself in trousers, never lived, never died, purely a menace. Giants. Giants nearly went extinct, and the tragic part is who did it. Mostly giants. Picture 20 feet of muscle with skin tough enough to shrug off most spells and patience measured in seconds. Wizards drove them out of Europe over the centuries, packed the survivors into shrinking territories, and the giants handled the crisis by beating each other to death over status. By Harry's time, around 80 remained, crammed into one mountain colony and still swinging. Giant society runs on a beautifully simple system. The biggest and strongest giant becomes the Gurg. The Gurg does whatever he wants, and everyone else waits for a chance to replace him, usually with a rock. Hagrid and Madame Maxime saw this firsthand on their diplomatic mission. They spent days winning over the Gurg carcass with gifts, then woke up to find the tribe had ripped his head off overnight. Fun! Voldemort recruited giants in both wars for the obvious reason that they're walking siege engines with a grudge against the Ministry. The Ministry, in fairness, earned the grudge. The catch? Giants can love, learn, and be loyal. The wizarding world just never gave them a reason. Hagrid dragged his half-brother Gwarp home, taught him manners with mixed results, and by the Battle of Hogwarts, Gwarp was swinging at other giants for the good guys. Hagrid himself is proof the blood isn't a problem. Half-giant, gentlest man in the castle cries at dragon hatchings. Wizards feared the wrong thing all along. Centaurs. Centaurs were offered full citizenship in the wizarding world and said, "No thanks, we've seen your company." Human head, arms, and torso on the body of a horse, with an intellect they consider well above the average wizards. The Ministry classified them as beings, the highest legal status available, and the Centaurs requested a downgrade to beasts. Why? Being status meant sharing a category with hags and vampires, and Centaurs would rather be filed next to flubberworms than next to that crowd. Imagine declining a promotion purely out of disgust for your coworkers. Legends. They live in herds deep in forests, read the future in the stars, and consider wizards short-sighted children galloping toward disaster. When Firenze carried Harry to safety on his back in first year, his own herd nearly killed him for it. Letting a human ride you is roughly the Centaur equivalent of treason. When he later took the divination job at Hogwarts, they exiled him for good. Bane led the outrage. Hagrid stopped the beating, and half the female students suddenly discovered a deep passion for divination. Now here's the real gossip. The Ministry keeps a Centaur liaison office fully staffed, and no Centaur has ever set foot in it, not once. It's the wizarding equivalent of a customer service desk for customers who'd rather die. Dolores Umbridge learned the price of disrespect personally. She marched into the Forbidden Forest, called them filthy half-breeds to their faces, and got carried off screaming into the trees. The Centaurs returned her eventually. Too bad. She flinched at hoof beats for the rest of her career. Merpeople. Merpeople are exactly what the name promises. Human torso, powerful fishtail, entire civilizations underwater. And they also refused being status for reasons of pure solidarity drama. Back when wizards were drafting definitions, merpeople got excluded because mermish can't be understood above water. So the Centaurs boycotted the meeting on their behalf. When the offer finally came, both races declined together. The wizarding world's two smartest non-human species took one look at the membership list and started their own club. Respect. Forget everything Muggle fairy tales promised you, though. The Merpeople of the Black Lake have gray skin, wild green hair, yellow eyes, and broken teeth, and they carry spears. Harry met them during the second task of the Triwizard Tournament and discovered that Ariel does not live here. What they lack in Disney looks, they made up in civilization. Villages, art, music adapted for underwater ears, and an entire security detail for the tournament's hostages. Quick note, they're also surprisingly reasonable neighbors. Dumbledore was one of a few wizards who bothered learning Mermish, and he chatted with the Merchieftainess, Marcus, like old friends. The lesson every other wizard ignored, they'll talk to you, you just have to literally meet them halfway. Or half-lake. And here's the part nobody talks about. During the second task, the Merpeople could have stopped Harry from freeing extra hostages. They pointed spears. Harry pointed his wand. And they let the kid with the hero complex pass. Somewhere under that lake, a mer village still tells the story of the world's most stubborn land boy. House-elves. House-elves might be the most magically gifted race in the wizarding world, and wizards use them to iron socks. Small, bat-eared, tennis ball-eyed creatures, they're magically bound to serve a family for life. And their wandless magic breaks rules wizards consider unbreakable. An elf can operate straight through Hogwarts' defenses. Dobby pops in and out of the castle like the ancient protective enchantments are a beaded curtain. The same creature is legally required to punish himself with a desk lamp if he says something rude about his master. The whole arrangement runs on one rule. An elf serves until the family hands him clothes. A single sock ends the contract, which is how Harry freed Dobby with laundry and made Lucius Malfoy lose a duel to his own household staff. Most elves find freedom horrifying. Winky got dismissed by Barty Crouch and fell apart completely. And elves absorb the values of the house they serve. Creature spent decades alone with a portrait of Mrs. Black, and turned into a muttering shrine to pure-blood mania, complete with a collection of family relics and opinions nobody asked for. Treat him decently, as Harry eventually figured out, and the same elf leads a kitchen charge at the Battle of Hogwarts. Hermione tried fixing all this with SPEW, an organization with a budget of a few sickles and a membership she mostly assigned by force. The elves themselves avoided her knitted hats like a cursed object. Turns out liberation is a hard sell when the oppressed are on the oppressor's side. Veela. Veela are what happens when beauty gets classified as a magical weapon. They look like impossibly gorgeous women with moon-bright skin and hair that flows without any wind. And when a Veela dances, grown wizards lose their minds on the spot. At the Quidditch World Cup, one look at the Bulgarian mascots had Harry ready to jump from the top box just to impress them. And Ron tore his omnioculars apart without noticing. The Veela charm doesn't ask permission. It just switches the brain off and leaves a note. The catch comes with the mood swings. Anger of Veela, and the supermodel act ends instantly. The face stretches into a cruel bird's beak, wings burst out, and they start throwing literal fireballs. The World Cup final descended into chaos when the Veela and the Irish Leprechaun mascots turned the pitch into a mid-air brawl. The referee tried to send off the mascots. The mascots were on fire. Quidditch is a beautiful sport. Basically, Veela are the one race that merged into wizarding society through marriage. Fleur Delacour is quarter Veela. Her grandmother was the full package. And even a quarter was enough to compete in the Triwizard Tournament and make every boy at Hogwarts walk into walls. She married Bill Weasley, which means Veela blood now runs through the most crowded family tree in Britain. Most fans don't realize Ron actually asked Fleur to the Yule Ball. The charm hit, he blurted the invitation out loud in a corridor, then fled before she could answer. He spent the next hour asking Harry why he did it. Nobody had an answer. Werewolves. Werewolves are the Ministry's favorite legal nightmare, because technically they aren't a race at all. A werewolf is a regular human who got bitten by another werewolf in wolf form. One bad night in the woods and congratulations! Now you transform into a mindless killing machine every full moon. The Ministry couldn't even decide which department owns them. There's a werewolf's office in the Being Division and one in the Beast Division. 29 days a month, you're a citizen. 1 night a month, you're a filing error. Remus Lupin is the case study in how unfair the whole system is. Bitten as a small child, brilliant student, best defense teacher Hogwarts ever hired, and one leaked secret from Snape ended his career overnight. Wolfsbane potion exists and lets a werewolf keep his human mind during transformation, but it's fiendishly difficult to brew, so most werewolves just board themselves up and hope. Then there's Fenrir Greyback, who took the opposite career path. He bites people on purpose, positions himself near victims before the full moon, and specifically targets children to raise them away from their families. He mauled Bill Weasley while not even transformed, which shouldn't be possible and somehow made it worse. Translation: the condition doesn't pick a side. It gave the wizarding world its kindest teacher and its most horrifying predator, and the Ministry responded to both with the same paperwork. Lupin spent his whole life paying for Greyback's reputation. Vampires. Vampires officially exist in the wizarding world, pale, sharp-toothed humanoids with a famously specific diet. And they hold full being status, and the books show almost none of them, which is somehow the most realistic detail in the entire franchise. They belong to an unofficial subcategory wizards call Dark Beings, a label that comes with legal rights on paper and crossed wands in practice. Hagrid mentioned that in some parts of the world, people openly call for wiping them out entirely. Apparently, being status comes in tiers. The one confirmed vampire we actually meet is Sanguini, who attended Slughorn's Christmas party in Harry's 6th year as the +1 of Eldred Warple, a writer who clearly kept him around for the networking value. Sanguini spent the evening eyeing the necks of nearby girls, while Warple yanked him back by the arm like a man walking a very pale dog. And that's the entire on-screen vampire community of Britain, one hungry party guest with a handler. Wild idea, I know, but Gilderoy Lockhart built half a career on this gap. His book Voyages with Vampires sold thousands of copies describing heroic vampire encounters. That, like everything Lockhart ever claimed, actually happened to someone else before he wiped their memory. The wizarding public knew so little about real vampires that a man with good teeth and a quill could invent the entire subject. What makes it special is the restraint. Vampires are the rare case where the wizarding world decided some neighbors are better left unbothered. Everyone politely coexists. From a distance, near garlic. Hags. Hags are the race everyone in the wizarding world has seen and nobody wants to sit next to. Picture a witch gone wrong. Humanoid, magical, walks among wizards freely, with more warts than a cursed toad and a diet that in-universe rumor insists includes children. They hold being status, they shop in the same streets, and when a hag walks into the leaky cauldron and orders a plate of raw liver, Tom the barman serves it without blinking. London hospitality is undefeated. That's the strangest part of hag lore. Total integration with zero acceptance. Centaurs live in forests, merpeople live in lakes, giants live on one sad mountain. Hags just live here, in Nocturne Alley, and dodgy pubs, existing in the background of every shopping trip. They're one of the reasons centaurs and merpeople refused being status in the first place. And honestly, the Wizarding World's information on hags is mostly gossip and side-eye. The closest thing to an official source is Gilderoy Lockhart's Holiday with Hags. And we've established how his research worked. Rumor has it they can't disguise themselves as well as vampires. The rest is parenting folklore. Because the story goes that a hag's appetite is the one thing keeping wizard children in bed after dark. The punchline is that no hag in the books ever actually harms anyone. The scariest confirmed hag crime on record is that liver order back at the leaky cauldron. Centuries of terrifying reputation, zero convictions. Trolls. Trolls stand 12 feet tall, weigh over a ton, and carry a brain that would lose a chess match to the club they're holding. There are 3 breeds. Mountain trolls are the biggest and bald. Forest trolls come in a lovely pale green, and river trolls lurk under bridges being purple and hairy, and all 3 share one hobby, hitting things. Hogwarts even named a grade after them. Score below dreadful on your OWLs and your official result is troll, which is the ministry legally calling your exam paper a blunt instrument. Plot twist. Trolls were once classified as beings. Wizards defined a being as anything that speaks the human tongue. So the Goblins, purely for the joke, taught a few trolls some English words and watched them get invited to government meetings. The trolls attended and smashed the hall. The definition got rewritten. It remains the greatest prank in wizarding legal history, and the Goblins never apologized. Harry's entire friendship with Hermione exists because of a troll. First year, a mountain troll wandered into the girls' bathroom, courtesy of Quirrell, who had a genuine talent with them, and Ron won the fight by levitating the troll's own club onto its head. 12 feet of monster defeated by its equipment and a first year who'd learned the spell that afternoon. Some trolls do find honest work. After Sirius Black slashed the fat lady's portrait, Hogwarts hired security trolls to guard her. They patrolled the corridor comparing club sizes. Employee of the month. Leprechauns. Leprechauns are tiny bearded men in green vests whose entire magical gift is a financial scam. At the Quidditch World Cup, they flew over the stadium as Ireland's mascots, formed a giant glittering shamrock and rained gold coins onto 100,000 spectators. The crowd went feral, scooping it up. Nobody read the fine print though. Leprechaun gold vanishes within hours. Ron learned this the painful way. He grabbed a fistful of falling coins and proudly paid Harry back for his omnioculars, feeling like a self-made man. Then the gold evaporated overnight, and being the kid who accidentally stiffed his best friend haunted him for months. Real talk, the coins hurt him more than the actual money problem ever did. But the true victim of leprechaun economics was Ludo Bagman. The ministry's own head of magical games paid Fred and George their World Cup bet winnings in leprechaun gold, hoping 2 teenagers wouldn't notice. Well, they noticed. He then spent the entire year dodging the twins and worse, dodging the goblins he owed real gold to. By the end of the Triwizard Tournament, Bagman fled the country with angry goblins on his trail, a grown ministry official taken down by fairy tale currency and his own gambling problem. Oh, and when Bulgaria's Veela mascot started fighting dirty, the leprechauns didn't back down from a species that throws fireballs. They flew into formation, spelling out a rude gesture, Ireland's finest. Now, the real question, why the wizarding world never took over the Muggle world? That's your next lesson here at Stickman Hogwarts. Click now before Voldemort finds out he lost to people with Wi-Fi.